Okay, so we're back for another Twitch stream. I mean, just a general stream. We're gonna do some VFX work in Sequencer, or at least work in Sequencer a little bit, or focus in working in Sequencer. Add a little bit of VFX. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time making VFX. I'm mostly just gonna be taking VFX that already exists. But the idea is we want to use the scene that we had from before and add some gunfire shots that will happen when the character shoots their gun. So I did a test run yesterday that kind of got myself into a point where I think it's going to be pretty good, and I just want to share that with you guys today and see what we can do. Oh, we got Raz17 saying welcome, so already somebody has joined me, which is great. There's not many people usually join me in the very beginning of the stream, so everything I say right now is probably going to get missed, but that's okay. Anyway, we're gonna have some fun trying to play with Sequencer a bit and see what we can do, and see if we can explore a bit of VFX stuff. So I'm gonna switch over to my screen before I forget traditionally, and we're gonna open up the Unreal project that we've been working on in the past week and see if we can get ourselves going. Let's also see if I can get this to work, because I did do my tests last night and then I reset everything, because that's what source control is good for. You can reset all your work, and so it's all been started from scratch, hopefully, or at least I did a little bit of organizing, but generally speaking it's starting from scratch. So let's see here, see if everything is working good. Now, there was a couple things that I ran into when I was going through the level yesterday that I realized things that I never talked about, or at least I didn't realize was happening, that I'm going to address today as I go through it. So, a couple interesting issues. For example, if I play the level, the landscape disappears, and I had to figure out why exactly that was, which wasn't too bad, but I must have been doing something weird one of my Twitch streams to created that issue. In fact, let's just talk about that right away, because why not? So under window, under levels, we have a couple different levels, and that's really what's going on. The landscape is on the export temp, and I think what I was trying to do was separate it to see if I could do a test to export it, because I know this landscape, when I export it, is like a huge file, takes up a lot of gigabytes of data. And so even last night when I was doing this, if I select the actors that are inside of this level, I haven't really talked much about levels, but it's basically how you can, you know, each level you can have a master level with lots of children levels in it. And so, and it would allow you to like stream in different aspects of those levels, which is a cool thing to do, and definitely interesting, but also complex for a lot of artists, and so we don't really see it very often. But anyway, so this landscape is inside of export temp, and I want to put it in the persistent level, which is your main level, so that I can have it already there when you play the game, which is, in this case, I have no excuse as to why it needs to be in a separate level. I could technically stream it in, but it's just, there's no point. So we're just going to move selected actors into the level, and it's going to say, yo, this is a huge map, are you sure you want to do this? It's going to use a lot of memory. And normally I'd be like kind of worried about this, but because I did it last night, I know that I have enough RAM to get through this. I think it used about 25 gigs of my 32, so I do have a few other things running today, so hopefully that's not gonna put me over the top. Usually what happens when you run out of RAM is the program will be like, error, and it will just crash, and you'll get a crash window. And this used to happen all the time back in the day when we had crashes, because you'd run out of RAM. You only had like 4 gigs or whatever, and you'd know it would happen because you're get these crashes unexpectedly. All right, so hopefully that worked. I'm not really sure why the landscape isn't showing up right now, so that's a little bit concerning that I'm not getting the same results as before. And if that's the case, then improvise. Also, I'm not on Perforce, which is like, what? All this source control stuff here. There you go, it's not actually working. Let's see if the files are... Got multiple cameras? Wow, look at all these cameras I have. Did I really make that many cameras? Whoa. Yeah, we lost the landscape when I did the transfer. Alright, well that was a bummer. So let's just go to our source control, refresh this, grab the files that I just changed, revert, and then it will bring it back to the files that was originally there. And we reopen the project. Windows 10 early days. Are we talking about with the crashes with the low RAM? Windows 10 though? Is that something that would happen a lot? It's all like, sounds very recent to me. Let me try this one more time. And I'll do a lot less talking. Move selected actors to level. Yes, please proceed. Last time what I did was I selected all the actors and moved it over, but this time I just want to move that one asset over. And then this is the landscape asset that I have selected here. So if this disappears, then I know that I've got a problem. And then I'm going to go to option B, which is streaming the level. So we'll see how this goes here. Yes, I started working with CG. I used Windows 10. Even with 48 gigabytes of RAM, I experienced a lot of crashes because of RAM. It was Windows 10 issue though. Yeah, like 48 gigs of RAM? Wow. That might even have been like a issue with like, that's too much RAM. That's awesome. That's a strange number though. Usually we go from like 32 to 64, but 48 is like very specific. You must be having a special mix of RAM cards. Also, sometimes your RAM is bad. So it could have just been a RAM thing, like just one of your RAM cards is bad. That's true. It's like, this is all I can afford. 48 gigs of RAM. It is really frustrating. I did this with my laptop. I bought a new laptop with 16 gigs of RAM, and I thought it was one card of 16, but it was actually 2 cards of 16, 2 cards of 8. And then I bought a whole like another 16 to bring it up to 32. And I'm like, I don't want to throw away 8 gigs of RAM, but it's only 2 slots, and so that's the unfortunate truth of RAM upgrades, is you end up all this hardware that you never actually needed or used. Hey, it worked this time. Excellent. We used that in PC for 4 people team for everything. Wow. Okay. That's kind of cool. So you're doing like is it 4 people would sit at the computer individually at their own time, or like you were doing a desktop remote multi-computer share user thing? Which I have actually done that before. It does require a bit of a hack, but you can have like multiple people logged into a computer at the same time. That's just more of a professional way to do it. I had to install some kind of hack for it though. Windows doesn't like it letting you do that by default, I guess. We used it in turns. Yeah, that would be your alternative. I use real VNC now. I used to use Windows Desktop Remote for communicating to other computers, but they all have to be like pro licenses, which sucks. And it was complicated. And then I went and found real VNC. I'm like, whoa, this is so much better. You get like 5 machines and you can talk to each other through, like, you can use desktop remote even if you're outside of your own network. It'll talk into your network. It's very easy to set up. Ah, yes. Well, that was convenient that you all had different shifts. Do game designers do game art, or is that 2 different things? Do game designers do game art? Well, it depends on how big your studio is, probably. I'm sure game designers have been known to do art at one stage or another in game production. But generally speaking, from my experience, it's been pretty much two separate jobs. And they just create tasks and send out the tasks for the artists. And they have lots of meetings with the artists and the animators and everything and discuss the potential. And the art designer is like, or the art director is there basically translating what the designers want and dishing it out. So, but if you're in a small team and there's just a few of you, then definitely like do whatever you got to do to get the project done, and you end up wearing tons of hats, way more hats than you realize. Okay, so what I've done is I've got this level in, I've moved it from the, whatever it was called, export map to the persistent map, so that when I play the level, it should be there. Yeah, landscape is there. You'll notice that this plate that I'm using, that I exported, I used that plate, or plane, I guess, to bring that into Maya, so I had some sort of reference of where the landscape was angled, because I wasn't able to export this giant landscape because it's a huge file and I can't export it out, and I don't know how to turn it into a static mesh any other way, so I just got stuck. So this file shows up now when I play the game, which I don't want to do. So pretty much every static mesh in the game has a checkbox for actor hidden in game, so you just turn that on. Now when you play the level, it doesn't show up. So those are some housekeeping things that we had to do before we could get into the rest of it. All right. Now what are we going to do next? Let's go into our cinematic, I guess. So we'll open up our existing cinematic, take a look at our camera here. We'll see the character animation do its thing, which is pretty much where we left off 2 weeks ago. I didn't really spend any time focusing on the animation yet. It's kind of in a blockout phase, which is a bit weird and jarring, but at the same time, you know, I think it's appropriate that we kind of move on to try something new. Basically, what I'm trying to do is when the character shoots the gun in this pose, I'm going to add some VFX. And when the character runs over here and shoots the gun again, there's going to be some more VFX. And we're just going to talk about how to do that. It's not going to be very hard. It's pretty straightforward. But and then from there we can play with some more stuff. So what I did, and like I had this idea that I was going to make some crazy effects in Niagara, but like it's so over my head. There's lots of tutorials online that you can find to make all kinds of crazy awesome VFX using Niagara now, which is awesome because it just came out, well, it's just really kind of finalized so recently. But it requires a fair bit of math to get a nice looking VFX. So what you can do, and what I did, was there is lots of assets that you can find on the marketplace in Unreal. I mean, this is no surprise here, but there is the one that I'm using is the Infinity Blade one, which is free, and it's been free for years, and it all uses Cascade VFX. So we're not talking like high fancy VFX stuff here, because I'm not going to try to convince anyone that I'm a master at VFX, but it is kind of fun to look at them and we can sort of explore what's in there. So the one that I'm using is well, if you just go free, it'll just filter it out, and we're using the Infinity Blade one, which when it did come out was pretty cool. It's been a few years now though, but it's actually it's got lots of VFX in here, and they're all Pretty good. Definitely something worth taking a look at if you're trying to learn VFX and you want to kind of learn some more about it. They did have like value of how much this stuff cost to develop at one point, and it was like millions of dollars. Not maybe the VFX, but VFX plus the other stuff they gave up for free. Anyway, so I just downloaded it, installed it to the project. I've already done it because it's right here, Infinity Blade, and you can find all these VFX things, and you should be able to just click on them. There's mobile VFXs and then regular ones. Where are the ones that I was looking for here? Let's try doing a filter for effects. No, not that kind of effects, I guess. It's only Niagara effects. Wow. Look for some old school Cascade effects then. Particle system. There we go. Oh yeah, so here's the one that I was gonna use. It's got a beam fire. Oh, I got an idea. Let's go take a look at the overview map, and then we can see what we're doing here. Let me remove all these filters so I can see that map again. Oh geez, I haven't compiled any of these materials yet apparently. Pretty sure I've done this before, so maybe I've lost them all when I restarted. Anyway, there's a couple good ones in here that I was going to use. I don't even see my progress bar of how many shaders I'm compiling right now, so who knows how long this is going to take to do, and if it's even doing anything. Anyways, impact dot. Let me go back to what I was doing before. In here, fire this one. We're getting anything here? I wonder if all the textures are broken. Oh man, that would be terrible. Oh boy. Alright. That's probably what's happening right now. I must have lost the textures when I was doing my reset. Okay, so what we'll do it properly then. So let's go to here, we'll add the project, and we're gonna do not backdrop, it's like called back. Where is it called? Backdrops. Character sets. Character sets. Okay, so here we are. When is it? Oh, that's the backup one, so that's not the right one. Add it to this project. Overwrite. Hope that my internet's fast enough. Oh, failed. Okay, let's close the project. One step at a time here. CGS. Character sets. Add to project. Overwrite. Downloads. There we go. Done. Alright, we open the project up again. Also, there's 4.25.3 version of Unreal out now, which is I must have missed the 4.25.2. I don't know what the story was there. Maybe it maybe they skipped that version, or maybe I just didn't get notified and I was working in the wrong version for way longer than I needed to. But we've gotten past the issues I had once upon a time with 4.2.51, where I can put my overlays back on my Explorer files. Long story, probably not worth explaining, but anyway, that's something that happened since the last time I was talking. So let's see if we can get to that overview map again and see if we can get these textures to show up. Ah, there we go. That's looking better. So yeah, lots of cool textures here. And the nice thing is that, I mean, in Cascade, you can just open them up and take a look at how they're put together. I'm definitely more familiar with Cascade than I am with Niagara, and it's just basically a bunch of, you know, multiple particles happening at once, and you know, you can turn them off or turn them on, and take a look how they work. But we're not really worrying about making them because I am definitely stealing ones that already exist. In theory, what I did was last night was use this one, but I mean, we could use any of these. There's a way to get them to start up. You gotta see what they look like. That one's more like a blue frozen thing. That might actually look a little better. Alright, maybe we'll do this one. So what's this one called? Laser Ice Large. Alright. So the process of attaching things to sequencer, particularly VFX and stuff, isn't really that complicated. Sometimes you would want to create a socket in the skeleton of the animated character that you're trying to attach it to, but I was able to already make it work without having to create a socket. But maybe we'll just talk about how to do a socket anyways, just for fun. Or at the very least, let's take a look at the character's joints so we know what we're talking about before we get to that stage. So we'll open up the character itself. And I guess what we're doing is we're getting the hand to snap to the gun weapon. And if you take a look at the joints inside of this character rig, which is thousands of joints, there's one that's called gun barrel, and that is a joint part of this gun that sits right where I'd wanted the VFX to be cast from. But if I didn't have like a joint there, then I could create a socket. And so add socket from that point. You can see it's the child of that object, and it exists right where that bone was, and you can adjust and move it and rotate it and do what you got to do to make it now in the best place. In fact, maybe we should put it here instead. And also I happen to know that it needs to be rotated by 90 degrees, but we'll just save that for later. Here's a question, Drawn Skull. Welcome back, by the way. I want to, I guess you already asked me a question, I never said that. I want to design open world and first person shooter games. You have such a long list of things that you want to do. Every time you come in chat, you're like, I want to do this and that and this. Design an open world and first person shooter games. So open world, definitely a very ambitious task. I mean, any kind of sandbox game is insanely huge project to take on. First person shooter games, not quite as epic of a thing to worry about just on that alone. But really, you have to imagine how big your team is going to be in order to justify how big this project is going to be, because it's just such an insane amount of work to do even just a small project. You really and feature creep is such a thing that you really just want to be like, my opinion anyways, is just start super simple, super small, get something to actually function in a way that you feel like is fun and where you want to go with it, and then just use that as your starting point. It's just so common for somebody to start something that's going to be really big and then just not finish it, because it just takes eons to get anything finished. So anytime I start a project, I'm always like, how simple can we make it? Can we make it even more simple than that? How simple can it be? Just for the sake of the fact that, like, you know, unless you're planning on hiring people, there's just no way that you're gonna get it done. Or basically you have to sacrifice your life to dedicated to doing it, and then by the time you're finished, it's like, oh, technology looks way better using this other tool over here, and you've written all your stuff in the wrong tool, so now you've got to start over. And that used to be such a classic problem back in the day for game studios, and it still is today, I guess, but it is so much easier to make games than it was before, I guess. So we make games bigger. Okay, so I'm going to take this object here and attach a weapon to it, which is going to happen inside of the sequencer. I normally was thinking I was going to do it inside the character blueprint here, but that's not what I want to do, or the character skeletal mesh. So we'll go back to the sequencer and we're going to add our VFX to our sequencer after I answer this next question, or read that anyways. To be honest with you, movies was the only thing I've been focusing on for years, but since the COVID movie business just been going bad. Yes, well, it's true, but it's not going to go away, so I don't think it's a total I think there's a lot of interesting opportunity in getting into, like, at least just developing stuff in a game, a real-time environment. I think you're a pretty safe bet if you're going to put your time into learning something. Learning in a real-time environment is probably going to pay off for you, but it doesn't mean that, you know, we should all jump ship from movies and film, because I think that's that will be there still. People still like their movies, and that's not going to go away. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna get the, oh yeah, so we're bringing in the VFX that we want to put in. So what I'd like, I'm gonna drag it in because it's it actually forces the object to sit. Oh my goodness, can we just not do that? So there's two ways you can bring assets into the sequencer, and I've talked about this a long time ago, but I'm gonna reiterate it since my stream was specifically talking about sequencer. But you can bring assets into sequencer two different ways. One with the little electric bolt, which means that the item is spawned by sequencer according to the object spawn track. So basically it shows up in your scene only when the sequencer is playing, which is a very cool feature from sequencer. It never used to do this with Matinee, which is the old system. Or what you can do is bring it into your scene as an actual object, and then drag it into sequencer, and then it becomes possessable, I think is what they call it. Oh, I like how everything just froze. That's not good. All I did was right click on it and everything froze. That's awesome. So it probably crashed. Anyway, you can do possessable, which is basically an object that already exists in your level, and then you just possess it and do cinematics with it, and then when the cinematic's finished, it just puts it back in the level. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. I do kind of okay, no problem, you'll be back in a bit. That's probably best because I just crashed. Hey, wait, can I still? Oh yeah, there we go. Finally, got a full-on crash here. Send and restart. That was actually, I think that wasn't my fault. That was definitely an Unreal problem. Yeah. So anyway, I was talking about possessing cinematic objects, but let's just go back to where we were again. Sequencer. So yeah, what I want to do is I want to drag it in so that we actually have the object only show up when the cinematic is playing. That's the cleanest way to do it right now, for sure. What was it, ice or something? Shoot, where is that ice? There it is, combat ice. No. Fact, no. Let's do a filter for particle systems. See if we can find it here. Is this it? That looks good. Alright, we'll do the small one. But yeah, all we do is once we find it, drag it in. And it exists in our cinematic. And you'll notice it has a little electrical bolt on it as opposed to the other option. I'm paranoid about, I better save it first. Alright, here I'm gonna go right click on it. Yay, it worked this time. Didn't crash. And so we have convert to possessable. So basically at any time you can switch it between spawnable or possessable. Let's see here. Form. So this is now existing in the world at a certain place, probably the origin, which probably isn't anywhere near where this is right now. So what I want to do is make sure that it follows the player, the character. And so one of the tracks you can put in is called attach, which allows you to basically do a constraint. And we're going to constrain it to our character. And because the character is a skeletal mesh, it has joints, it knows that it can connect to things. So we want to ask, what do you want to connect the effects to? And here, this triangle means it's a socket. So that's the socket that we created. It's attached to this joint way down here, the barrel joint. I didn't really name it, but it happens to be a pretty decent name convention for me to find. So I'm going to attach it to that socket. And so what you see here is the attached track. It's got a whole list of stuff that you can, well, basically the whole bar here is representing where the object is constrained. And you can technically say, I want only to be constrained for half of it and then constrained to it. You can see there it just snaps to the gun. So when you do constraint, make sure that this bar is overlapping everything that you want it constrained to. The other thing is, well, I guess we're going to find out is the direction. So we need to make the VFX activated, and hopefully it's just going to work for me here. We do particle toggle track, and we can say activate and do a key right here. There we go. And now that's caused the particle to turn on at that point. And so you can see here another bar that represents where it's activated, which is basically infinitely forward until I tell it to deactivate or a trigger. So actually I think trigger might be more useful for what we want to do right now. So maybe what I'll do is switch it to trigger. And we'll find the pose that we want to do a trigger for. So say right here, trigger, key that, turns it on, and then it'll just stay on until the animation plays through. There's another spot here where we're going to do another fire in here, maybe here. Trigger that. Now, as we can see, it's rotated in the wrong direction, and that was something I was almost going to fix with the socket. And in theory, you can fix it with the socket. I would just have to know which way I'm going to rotate it. Yeah, maybe we'll just do that way for fun. Otherwise, I could just rotate. Just use the rotation here. Maybe we'll just do this. Pitch 90 degrees. There we go. Fixed. But in theory, I could have made my socket rotated so that every time I attach this object to it, it's going to be in the right direction. And that might be useful if you're doing like gameplay stuff and all of a sudden you got to attach something to the socket, like a gun usually, and it's just going to be oriented in the right way right away. You don't have to do any fiddling around. So one way that I decided to get the gun to just show for a short while is just toggle its visibility. Was my plan. I don't know if there is a visibility track here, so I think I'm going to add. Let's see here. Is it actor hidden in game? All right, we'll add actor hidden in game, and we'll say, we want it to be visible true here, and then quickly turn it off here, and the other one here, and it'll get triggered here, so we make it visible true, and then we'll turn it off here. So we go pow, and that's pretty much the whole story. I mean, there's not much going on here otherwise. Oh, I was thinking about maybe adding some sound effects or something. pew, and then pew. Actually, that VFX looks pretty good. That's a much more appropriate one, I feel, because we got the blue effect and the blue effect. Funny how I didn't think of that yesterday. Well, it's probably for the best. Give me a second try at it. So let me save this, and then one thing we get to talk about as well is what do we do to get it to work when you play the level? Oh, we're gonna try to render it too. That would be fun. So we're gonna play the level, and it's like wah, wah, there's nothing happening. So playing the level requires some triggers that happen in the level blueprint. So open level blueprint, and the level blueprint basically allows you to make functions and commands that happen specifically for this level. And so what we want to do is create a sequence player, level sequence player. That's a very specific node for basically loading up sequencer assets, I guess, into the level and then allowing you to activate them. So, I mean, in theory, you can probably drag that sequencer file into your level and have it exist in the actual level itself. But this is I find this a bit neater of a way to do it, because you can enable, disable, especially if the sequencer file is set up to automatically play, then it will overtake your camera as soon as you play the level, no matter what you do. And nice to have like the ability to see, oh, there's a level sequence here, and it's actually loading whenever we begin to play, rather than having magical things in your level that are doing stuff that you just, you know, unless you're the one that added it, you just don't know it's there. So we hook this up to here. It's not going to do anything yet because it's not going to auto play. Dun 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 dun. So when I play, it still doesn't do anything. So we need to make this play, and there's two ways to do it. You can either say out actor and then play. Oh, I think you gotta. Oh no, maybe it's return value. There it is, play. But there is also the option to autoplay, and it's within these settings. So in order to see what's in these settings, I'm going to right click on it and say split struct pin, which allows you to open that up into anything that was going to be in there. You could also, you know, have grabbed that settings and turned it into a variable and controlled it through various means, but this works pretty good. Hey, you're back, Run Skull. And let's see here. Oh, and autoplay. So settings, autoplay, turn it on. File save. Now when I play, nothing happens. What did I do wrong? That was actually supposed to work. Oh, I haven't picked my asset yet. So, gotta make sure I pick the right level asset here. I might even do master. Master is just the version of, basically has the posing inside of it. In fact, I don't even know if I've even set that up properly yet. Let's take a look. Thinking a lot about what you said about how making video games are fun. Good. Not sure if that was the end of your sentence. I'm like, yeah, video games are fun. All right, so this master sequencer is basically the whole cinematic. I gotta make sure it finishes at the right point. I think it finishes a little early, so let's pull this back further. Oh, maybe move a little further. This is important that I'm doing this because I'm gonna have to do this when I do my render anyways. Man, it just keeps going and going and going here. All right, there, it stopped. Okay, so we save our master file, which basically just has a version of the whatever I'm calling the other one. Symmetro posing. So we'll make sure master is loaded, make sure it auto plays, and then when we play the level, we should have the cinematic. So you say, I had about 5 different characters I wanted to make as comic characters, but I'm thinking about making them as game characters instead. Well, I mean, you could technically say both, right? Like, a game character and a comic book character are relatively similar, except for you obviously have restrictions of some sort for how elaborate. You don't want like a Spawn character to be your main game character or something. I mean, you wouldn't want to be the rigger anyways, that's for sure. It'd be like my nightmare. I'm making this game, Spawn. Can you rig it? Let's see here. So our cinematic works. I didn't really acknowledge that, but it did. So that's cool. Then the game continues on what it was doing before. So it just basically does its thing. So, what's this giant thing in the way? How did that happen? What? That was weird. Huh. Oh, and where did our rock go? Oh, I bet our rock is still in the previous map. Yeah, I bet it is. I bet it is. Alright, let's go change that. Make sure we save everything. Because the blueprint wiring is inside of the level blueprint. We have to save the level for that to work. We're going to open up levels and go back to that thing that I did once upon a time. And see, I have the rock selected. I'm going to right click on the persistent level because it's probably existing in the export temp file. And I want it to be in the persistence so that it shows up when I load the game without having to basically, I'll show you what happens if you wanted that export temp to show up when you play the game. It's not that much more complicated. You just have to go to the level blueprint. Here it is. And it's a node called load stream level. And so if you just type the name, which was whatever it was, export, whatever the map was called, and you hook it up, it will load up the level. Oh, make visible as well. It'll load up the level that you have in that levels thing, and then it would show up. But it would sometimes, depending on how fast your computer is, sometimes it takes like a millisecond or a few ticks or something before it actually shows up. So it causes kind of chaos when you're trying to get characters not to fall through the ground. That's alright. They have a few Spawn games, yeah. And to be honest, it doesn't really surprise me. I'm sure there's like some pretty sweet stuff. I remember there was it Dark? Can't remember what the game was called. And it was a super complicated looking game for like how it was handling all these crazy arms and tentacles and stuff. And I'm like, not envious of the guy that had to figure that out. He's an MK. Oh, now you're talking stuff I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm not gonna act like I'm a comic book I'm knowledgeable in comic book characters. I just know that some of the characters are more complicated to make than others. If you had like Spider-Man, that's super easy. In fact, we've just posted another Spider-Man. Harry's posted another Spider-Man rig on the Slack that I didn't know about that you can get for free. I should actually show that up since we're all here. 7 of us. I gotta find Slack. What happened? Did it close? I always have Slack open. If I can find Harry's post. Put it up in the oh, I was over here. Animation 3D. Here it is. So we have a website here, which let me post that here. Mortal Kombat. I got you what you said now. Yeah, that's true. Actually, the guys that did the Mortal Kombat are like, that's quite an awesome studio. That was part of Warner Brothers. I remember when I was working at Rocksteady, it was like, oh yeah, sorry, Spider-Man. Oh, there isn't even a Spider-Man rig in here. My bad. I was like, it's the link about how to use the Spider-Man rig. And then I just assumed the Spider-Man rig was in there. Which is also, I haven't actually watched the whole video, so I don't really know. Anyway, there's a few free rigs there, so we'll just leave it there. What am I trying to say? Oh, so the guys that did Mortal Kombat, I forget what the studio is. I think they're in Chicago. And they were like, it was like, I was at Rocksteady and we were like, you know, Warner Brothers was really proud of Rocksteady. And then there was these guys that did Mortal Kombat, they're really proud of those guys. And then there's guys that did like Lord of the Rings. They were making a lot of money, so there's a few of us that were Star Studios. So anyways, so the guys at Mortal Kombat, guys, they know what they're doing. All right, let me get myself back to where I was here. Make sure that I know what I'm doing. Cinematic works. Okay, let's talk about how to render it. So rendering sequences, very easy to do. Just click on the little render thing inside your sequencer once you've got it all set up, of course. Gives you lots of options here that you would expect in a regular rendering thing. There's like JPEGs and PNGs, which is normally, every time I do a render, usually I do it as a sequence of images rather than an actual like compiled video for multiple reasons. And I'm not even a rendering guy, so this is like, I know from doing cinematics, we're doing pre-rendered cinematics that we do this, but they have EXR, which is a pretty sophisticated file format that I know very little about. But usually we just do like a bump map or PNGs or something that would support an alpha channel potentially. Well, I don't even know if alpha channel is that important, but just not compressed like JPEG where you lose a bit of quality in your image. But anyway, if you do it as an image sequence, it's good because if there's like some frames that die on you, which happens all the time, or the render crashes halfway through, you can just pick it up where you left off or clean up those frames or delete them or whatever. And this happens quite often, so it's always good, I find, to do an image sequence. And so I'm going to do PNG, and there's no audio, so not worried about that. And then your resolutions, which obviously you can do some pretty nice high quality resolutions for game engine. There's some pretty interesting things in here that I'm going to come back to in a bit. But meanwhile, cinematic mode, turn that on. Make sure that we have engine scalability for cinematic. That's basically the engine scalability settings. If you crank it up to cinematic, you're going to get everything at super high res quality. That's what you want to do for these rendered cinematics, because it's just going to render, it's going to take as long as it takes to do each frame. There's no worry about whether it's real time or not. Turn off show player, movement, all these interesting checkboxes here. Warm up stuff. This is interesting because if you want to have like, if your textures aren't loading right away on the first frame of your animation, you can have some warm up so that things are caching in and getting ready to go. Or if there's dynamics, physics and stuff, I'm sure this is quite useful to allow things to settle before the render starts. We would actually usually do a buffer of like 20 frames prior to the cinematic, just to let things settle, and then we start doing the actual cinematic. All right, capture movie. Creates a window in a different place, which does each image. And then it puts it all into a folder, which is in your video captures of your saved of your project. So it was kind of go into this folder. And yeah, because this is a very light cinematic, it rendered probably faster than real time, which is good. Oh, and we got multiple characters. That is probably got to do with the multi-sequencer open, which is a complicated problem to sort out right now. Interesting situation here. Look at that tweening that's happened. Maybe it's motion blur. or something. I'm actually a little baffled as to where that's coming from. Well, if you wanted a cool screenshot, at least you can do that. That's where I got my screenshot from. The multi-characters could very well be a motion blur problem. Not sure if we can easily disable that here. Or whether we have to go into the engine settings. Or it could be totally off. It could be something else completely. Let's just see. I'm just curious to see if there's settings for motion blur. Motion blur on. Turn it off. And let's do it again. Let's just save the scene. Getting all this boiling too. Oh, there's all kinds of rendering issues I have to sort out. Clearly didn't pay attention to that before. Also, we have two different renders on top of each other. I should probably get rid of them before I do it. Usually, I thought they would just override each other, but. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up about Sequencer that I haven't got to yet is being able to do render passes, which I wish I could tell you that I'm really good at knowing how this all works, but render passes is still pretty foreign to me, and I've never really had a whole lot of luck with it before, so at least using it in this particular context for sure. Yeah, so we still have multiple characters here, so I don't know, wasn't motion blur, and we have boiling, which I am concerned that that's because of ray tracing. It would be kind of interesting to see that was a factor that needed to be dealt with. Ray tracing with renders is a thing, and you have to up the sampling rate, which is a complex deal with dealing with ray tracing stuff, and again, something I haven't really spent a lot of time practicing because I don't even have ray tracing turned on, so it's probably not the case. It's probably something else. Now, oh yeah, so render passes. This is how you do it. You just go to custom render passes on the top of your image format options, and then you get a list of different render passes that show up that weren't there before, and you can look at all these different ones. I wish I could tell you that they're easy to use, but I never really quite fully understand how I'm supposed to utilize them. There is a way, and I've seen it in tutorials, where you can do a render pass and it allows you to create a silhouette of your run cycle of your character. If, for example, you make an orthographic view, you put your character doing a run cycle sideways, you do a render pass where it's just the outline of the character, stencil maybe, and you would be able to render out a little like a animated sprite of your character in a run cycle, and then you'd be able to use that for like a 2D side-scrolling game or something. But you could use your cool 3D character and turn it into a 2D made a GIF. Can you tell me what is it that you do in the game art business? What are all the things that you do? Holy cow. That's quite the question. Let's see if I can summarize something here. Can you tell me what it is that you do in the game art business? Okay, so I guess I can answer that pretty easily. So I started off as a character animator and worked my way to a more technical animator, and then worked my way to like a senior technical cinematic animator. And in that process, they're all pretty connected. It's just you're sort of taking on more of the role of dealing with the physics assets, the cloths and stuff, but also creating tools for the artists. It's like a hybrid of like a rigger, a character rigger, and an animator into more of a technical animator role. And it's kind of an interesting role because it's hard to find people who can do both. Usually you have your riggers who don't animate or your animators who don't rig, but to kind of have that hybrid of a rigger who knows how to animate, the niche market, and it's something that you'll find surprisingly a lot of employment opportunity out there for. Let's see here, maybe try to build lights and reflections before capturing frames. Oh, you're trying to help me there. Try building lights. Oh yeah, I haven't done that yet. Although I think I am using real-time lighting. And reflections. Let's just do it. Let's do a build. See what happens. Since I'm just chatting anyways. And what are all the things that you do? So yeah, I guess that's kind of the idea. I haven't, like, ever since I sort of left Rocksteady and I started my own studio, I've been sort of much more like broad range of tool sets, from like programming Python, and now I'm doing JavaScript stuff, and a lot of various technical issue areas, and not a lot of the art side. But as a mentor, I do a lot of animating, so just with the students, and so I get a lot of animation practice still. But I wear so many hats nowadays, it's ridiculous, and I don't think it's necessarily to my benefit, but it's just kind of how things going right now, especially when you're trying to keep up with all the technology changes. But in the industry, my main role was take care of motion capture pipelines, take care of like anything that's a weird rig system that requires animation skill, like chains animating or cloth animating, or anything that's like a complicated, and like I did a lot of the facial stuff too, so that was a big part of it, and setting up not only the facial rig but also animating, cleaning up facial motion capture, and setting up facial rigging systems for different setups. So that was an area that I was definitely kind of specialized in, was just facial animation rigging and technical rigging, and I still have a lot of experience from those days, even though it's been a while now and technology's changed quite a lot. You know, there's a lot of the basis there that it's still relevant today. And but yeah, I haven't really been keeping track of that stuff because, I mean, realistically, facial motion capture requires hardware, and it requires you know, complicated. Thing is, Unreal has never really created a system that allowed us to do facial motion capture or facial rigging in the editor. They used to have face effects as a plugin that was integrated in the tool, and we used to like use that, but then they dropped it before Unreal 4, so it's been kind of, you know, down to the artists to get everything sorted out, and and so a lot of the setups are in Maya and external, and then there's a lot of stuff that you can do in animation blueprints that will be useful, but you know, there's even Python scripting to automate a lot of the process. But I haven't actually done any of that yet since Unreal 4 came out, so I'm not really familiar with any of the best workflows in that front, but I do have a pretty good idea of where I'd start if I was gonna try to finish something. I was actually thinking maybe on the Twitch streams I might try and set up a facial rig. That might work. But anyway, let me see here. Would you say that first-person shooters is the most popular genre? Oh man, I don't know. Maybe first-person shooters. It's I don't know. I mean, you'd have to look at the numbers and the stats and find out what is popular. I know it's not my most popular genre. And it's not because I don't like first-person shooter games, but my whole life has sort of switched into a mode where I play games with my kids, and so it's a lot of focus on couch co-op games and things that engage everyone. And first-person shooters, I guess you can have first-person shooters that are co-op games, or at least split screen, but from a PC traditional sense, it's usually mouse, keyboard, and you in front of your monitor. And I have definitely spent many hours playing some pretty cool, pretty fun LAN memories playing first-person shooters with a bunch of other guys. It definitely is happy memories, but I'm no longer in that realm anymore. Sequencer has 30 frames, and in capture setting it's 24 if not mistaken. Like 30 frames a second. I mean, it doesn't really matter in the real-time world because it's whatever you want. It basically just takes whatever. It becomes infinite range of frames per second. It just renders whatever it is, and basically when you import an animation into Unreal, it's usually set up for a 30 frame a second time code, so it knows that, you know, this is how fast the time of the animation is supposed to be playing. But games play at a range of frames per second that's all over the board, and so they just basically, if you're running at 24 frames a second on a 30 frame a second animation, they'll just show you the pose that is sitting on that timeline at that particular point, which is a good reason why you want to be careful when you're doing animations, that you don't have, like, in Maya it might look fine that you have like a hand flipped this way and then it flips 360 degrees during a frame and sits the other way in the same pose, 360 degrees flipped. That might look fine in Maya because you're just going 24 frames a second perfectly, or 30 frames a second perfectly. But in a game engine, you might catch it while it's in a tween where it splits between the two. I don't know if that was even the question. I don't gone on a rant on that one. As an animator though, those are things I'm always worried about. But I see what you're saying. Frame rate 30, and then custom frame rate 24. I'm not even sure what they're trying to say here, so I guess I am. Let me go back to PNG here. Yeah, so it's outputting. It's outputting as 24 frames a second, I guess. Funny how I can't change it. It's like, sorry, you have to do 24 frames a second. Oh, here we go, checkbox. There, so then you can flip it over to 30 if you want to. Oh, okay, let's try it out. We'll see. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's what it was. Let me go. It's awesome that you're just sitting there troubleshooting for me. I like that. I'm like babbling about something that's irrelevant. Well, I guess it's relevant. Let's see if I can get back to that folder here. Video captures. Sure we have a clean slate and capture movie, save. This build is never gonna finish, so we'll never know if that actually has anything to do with anything. Okay, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, close. There's another problem that happens a lot when you have a sequencer open, is it creates a double of your character in your world, and this happens all the time. Where that would be a good way to test that, I guess. I guess if you play the level. Wait, why does it look like I'm trying to play it already? Guess you can't do it when you're in sequencer. Oh, maybe maybe they fixed that in the new version. You can't accidentally hit play while you have sequencer open. Wow, I was just gonna tell you how to break the game, and they've gone and made a fix for it now. That's hilarious. It's been like that for years. Would be nice to know the FBX if I encounter that at some point. Yeah. Oh, the fix, sorry. If I encounter that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. It is kind of a weird situation because I've got the character animation as stepped. So there is a very strange situation already. I wonder if there's another way to do a render. Doesn't involve having sequencer open like that. If I'm even chasing down the wrong path here. But anyway, so what I was trying to say before I realized there was a fix for it is if you ever tried to play the game with sequencer open, sometimes you would have double characters sitting in the scene. Just because sequencer was still running. And, you know, these are the characters in these shots are technically what is it called? Spawnable? Or they're spawn? No, not spawnable. They're the other one. Gosh darn it. What's it called? Possessable? Oh, no, I guess they are spawnable. So they are being created on the fly to that shot, right? So this might even be the area that we're having problems with. We could even try converting this to possessable. The character is now in the level. And I also using no longer the master sequence. So let's see if we can test here and see if this works. Hey, it's Gavin. You can't hide his name when he's coming from Facebook. Been missing the lives, but been watching the replays. Oh, that's awesome. Nice. Well, that's cool. Glad to see you're able to catch this one and also that you're watching the other ones. It's awesome. Yeah, we were doing quite a bit of animating before, which I must admit is fun. But today we're trying to cover a little more about sequencer and Unreal to make sure that we're not always just in Maya all the time. And I have lots of interesting ideas of what to do for the streams. Like I was thinking we could do a motion builder version where we do some retargeting of animations, but I don't remember why I thought that was a good idea before because I don't really know what exactly we're retargeting. Like, I've already hand keying this piece of animation, so why was I trying to retarget stuff? Yeah, I don't remember. I guess it would be just more of like a, this is how you do it. So let's see here. I was gonna do a render, and the render window didn't open. Is that why I got stuck here? And what's the deal here? Why is the render window not opening? It's there, I see it. It's just not anywhere on my screen. All right, I'll close it and we'll open it again. There we go. 30 frames a second, PNG, and do it. Yeah, so anyways, if you guys have ideas of what you want me to try out and work with, there's so much stuff that I normally do in classes that I just kind of I usually use my streams to try to find something new to do, but that's just because I like the idea of exploring new things. But if there's stuff that you guys want to talk about, we can always try to figure it out. Hey, look at that, worked. What did I do? Oh yeah, turn it to possessable. I don't even know if that's the right answer. Let me do another test before I get all confident with my answer here. We go back to the master and we're gonna do the same render. So the character is still an object, a character in the scene now, but we're doing it from the master. So we'll see if this is. Oh, I gotta delete all the frames. Movie, save. Still have a bit of boiling on the reflections, but I wonder if you play it as a movie, it'll actually just look normal. Okay, so yeah, possessible. That was it. I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's always more reasons why it could have gone wrong, but I think that's where we're at here. It doesn't make any sense though. Like, why would possessible make multiple characters? Maybe it's because there's two versions of the character, one that got created and then one that was already... It might have been just a hiccup in terms of how it works. Strange also why we don't have that problem with the VFX, because technically the VFX is also multi... I mean, is spawned. But... yeah, I don't know. The argument is that the character is a skeletal mesh, so there's joints rotating it, which is more complicated than just having a object that's attached to a joint. So it might be a bug that's related to skeletal meshes being used as spawnable. Good find though. Those are good bugs to figure out. And in terms of the boiling, maybe we'll find out when we're finished building it. We're gonna have solutions there. Or maybe it's more of a texture issue. Maybe I have to go to the, I don't know, the material and say, we gotta increase the... I don't even trying to think of where would that setting be? What would it be a setting for? Okay, so now I have run out of stuff to talk about. So let's see what else I can do here. Particle systems. I don't really have a huge backup plan here. Either I go back to animating. I feel like there was something really cool that I was gonna do and I don't remember what it is. Also, why is this rock not textured? That's another weird one. There's all these strange disconnections that happened when I reloaded my file. Yeah, the texture is definitely not assigned right now. This is a instance of from the parent. Oh, the parent isn't even connected. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Oh, it's like in here. That's the. Oh wait, there is no parent anymore. That would be probably why we're having problems here. Well, I know what we could do. We could start dissecting the VFX a little bit. Yeah, it's going up. You're right. 73%. I know. I've noticed that too. Well, let's go see if I can rescue my texture here. So I've got this backup folder. Let's jump over to the floor. So you can copy folders over in the content folder if you know that you're going to keep the folder structure the same. So MS presets is the parent Megascans assets, and then we have the Megascans folder, which is the other one. So I'm just going to copy those two folders over, bring them into the project that we're actually opening right now, or we have open right now, and just override it. And we'll see if that will except for the one that is being opened already. And I can't close it because we're doing the middle of a build right now. Really? So we'll have to wait for that one a bit. There's MS presets. What's it called, by the way? Default material. MS default material, and then you would put in your own textures. so that it uses all the wiring from the MS default material, which it already has. So there you go. That's it. Done. Boom. Rocks work now. Of course, that's going to mess up all my lighting building, but whatever. Alright, well, I'm glad that all hooked up afterwards. Should just make this object invisible. I really don't need it in the scene anymore. Visible, false. By the way, so it's a Niagara system. There were some pretty cool Niagara effects when I was doing my research that were like all kinds of. I was trying to create this like, or I was gonna do a search for like a plasma ball or something. So if you ever do UE4 Niagara VFX, oh I guess it already is VFX. Plasma ball or something. There's a ton of these cool plasma effects things. There's a lot of different tutorials out there for Niagara already. Like it's like, ooh, that's pretty cool. What's going on there? And then he goes through and does it, and it's like it's super complicated math. Well, that wasn't super complicated math, but it was more the wiring that he was doing. That was like. It obviously involves some mathematics in order to get that effect, where he's basically shooting this particle system out, and then it's being grabbed into this sphere that holds it in, and it's like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. And definitely too complicated for me to try to wing off of a Twitch stream, or a stream. You about me having a lot of goals. My passion for movies, games, and comics is equal, but why it's so hard for me to choose which one to do first? Yeah, I mean, like honestly, you can almost combine those into a singular direction. But my advice always is just keep it simple. Start simple, then you'll actually get something accomplished, and then move on from there and make something else. Shared data cache not in use, performance is impacted. That's okay. No importance volume found. Yeah, I probably could have wanted to do that. That's for the lighting. It's too massive. Automatically synthesized volume will not yield good results. Please add a tightly bounded light mass importance volume. So maybe that would have allowed my render to be a lot faster. So light mass importance volume is just over here in the volumes. Light mass importance volume, and then you just basically, oops, where did that go here? You just basically surround the area that you want to really highlight on the quality of lighting, shadow passes and such. And this is probably more important to do it in the back, I would imagine. So anyways, let's do a render before I go and click any crazy buttons yet. Master, oh, I got it right here. Render. You are right about me. Okay. That makes way more sense. So I just repeated myself basically. I was like saying the same thing because I didn't read your sentence correctly. Image sequence PNG. Okay. Oh, let's clear out the frames. This guy, I don't know why it doesn't just overwrite the existing frames. That would be so much more useful. All right, capture movie. Lots of saving going on because I just captured did the build. It's funny how when I just look over here, I was like, hey, look, the CGS is live right now. Wait, that's me. Following assets are writable disk. Oh, we just, they're writable but not checked out. Can we just fix that? Can you, why don't you just check it out then? All right, I gotta do it manually apparently. I'm going to do it in source control. Let's see here. Was character sets under content under we want this and this. We're going to check these out. And then we can hit close. So it was saying basically whenever you check out a file in Unreal or in source control, it converts the file from read-only to, or not read-only to read-only. So no, sorry. When you're checking it out, it turns read-only off. When it's submitted, it turns read-only on. So any files in source control is set with read-only on, and then when you check them out, it reads. So that Unreal was like, hey, this file is set to read-only off, but it's not checked out. So, you know, it's just a simple problem of like, oh yeah, that's oh, it's still boiling. Gotta go now. Have a great one. Thanks for the stream. Awesome. Well, thanks for thanks for the help trying to troubleshoot the issue. We got some of the problems solved. Still got the boiling issue, but anyway, appreciate your company and your help. Okay, so I'm gonna do another build of lighting just for the sake of just comparing how fast this is going to be now that we got a light importance volume. I'm just curious myself. And we're going to try to figure something else to do. I don't know what we're going to do next, but oh, we're going to take a look at some VFX. Let's try dissecting a little bit of it. We'll discuss some of that aspect. It's going to be through Cascade, which is the old school system, but I think there's some relevancy of how we can potentially cater that into what we're going to do in the future. I have a lot of windows open, so I'm just trying to manage that. So trying to figure out why my stream is saying that it aired out. Are we still good? I think so. All right, so we're gonna take a look at some Infinity Blade effects, and then maybe if I run out of stuff to do there, maybe we'll do some more animating, open up our animation, try to put some more poses in, and then next week I'll try to figure out something else to add to our scene here. There was a possibility that instead of using this lame effect that I have here that is made in Niagara, we could replace it with one of these cool effects here. Go back to the overview map. Oh, here I am doing that while I'm building lighting. That's probably not going to work out so good for me. Cancel. The lighting build was not nearly as fast as I was hoping it would be. That didn't really prove anything. All right, so let's see here. We gotta find something that looks like the reaction of that. I guess this could be it. Oh yeah, but they'd be shooting with a different type of weapon, so. Oh man. Do this one, I guess. Just sort of like turn it on and off. I don't know if that's the right effect. Or what we could do is do like one like this and then convert it to red and show you how to do a red version of it. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. We'll kind of like tweak one of them so it becomes our own. Just taking a look at all these other ones just to see if there's anything else that might be worth using instead. Maybe we can steal some cool effects while we're doing our custom version. Some fire effects. It'd be kind of cool. It'd be kind of nice if there was one that had a little bit of rock pieces falling off. Let's see here again. Wasn't there one that had a bit of chunks? These ones over here are gross. They're just like bugs. I know there was some cool effects that I was using for the class content that had rocks flying off. It was like a grenade launching explosion, which, you know, obviously we're not trying to do grenades right now, but if we could have like some of the little rock artifacts that were flying off, that would be kind of cool. Let's get this one here. This has kind of got some stuff moving. Maybe we'll do this one. So I'll go find it. We'll open it up. One shot. Boy, that sounds completely appropriate. Let's go here. Let's see what that looks like. Holy jeez. That's totally not at all what I thought it was going to be. Alright, let's go back to the other one. Okay. So some of these, so basically all this is assembled with different columns of effects, so you can just toggle them on and off. That is in fact the one that I wanted to get rid of. And this one. No, I want the rocks. Don't know what that is. Wow. And the point. Oh, these are the little dark rocks inside of there. Kind of interesting. So these particles that we're looking at with the cubes, they should, in theory, have like meshes. I would assume they're spawning meshes. Yeah, mesh data. So we're getting a box, which is just like a static mesh box, I assume. Oh no, it's like a static mesh bunch of boxes. It's interesting. They're not really animating, they're just scaling up and falling down. That's a pretty cool effect. And what's this other one here? Mesh data here. This is it the same asset? I think it might be. Cool. So yeah, that's a lot simpler than I expected. And they're not even textured. They have no texture on them. So we're applying the texture through the debris box is opaque, which I assume is a material that somehow matches to the dimensions of those cubes based on their UV layout. So you could apply any kind of material to these cubes, I guess. They're definitely going to stay as cubes, though. I can't really manipulate that part of it. But if they're small enough, or we could just export the cubes out and manipulate them in Maya. To what? Pieces of rock? How do we do that? Grab like 50% of the vertexes and shift them. Take all the pieces and somehow duplicate them and like, I don't think I'm coming up with a very good idea yet. Alright, we'll just stick with cubes. And we'll think about this over another period of time. So yeah, the material that we have applied to it, let's change this to a rock texture. So we're gonna move this to, what was the rock called, I wonder? Mega scan. Default material. No, that's not what I want. I want the instance. Mega scan. And Temple Stone. That right in there. It didn't work. Am I in the wrong one here? Huh. What am I not doing here? Spawn required. Oh, we just had a follow. Thank you from Who's Bounty. Who's Bounty? Thank you for following. Even though I'm sitting here trying to figure this out, going, alright, what am I doing? Let's go to the map that we had existing so that we can put it into. We have our, oh shoot, where is it? Maps. We'll go back to our mountain scene and oh, for crying out loud. And we'll drag this particle effect that we just have here. Oh, where is this particle effect? E-cube test mesh. No, it's there it is. Interesting that it's called a test. I don't even know what to think of that. Oops, moved it in the wrong place here. So I feel like some of the boxes are not colored the same. I don't know why some of them are different than the others. Almost feel like we need to properly recompile this or something. I don't know why we're getting question marks on all our assets. Let me close this down for a sec. And I've already saved it in there, so I should be able to jump back into it. Oh, you know what? Maybe the material texture is on there, but then we have another overlay on top of that that's giving it the glow effect. Maybe there's like a multiple materials thing happening there. I'm gonna go back and see if we can dissect what that is. So let's see here. Got all these assets. Submit this. Oh, I think I know what motion capture I was going to do, was try to retarget some run cycles and stuff so that we can have our character running around the scene after the cinematic's over. That wouldn't be so bad to do. Grab some run cycles from various sources. It would be good to talk about Motion Builder because a lot of people have questions about how to do motion capture. And yeah, you can retarget inside of Unreal, but it's like, you ever have the limitations you have in Unreal is sometimes it's unavoidable. So it's like nice to know that you have like a tool set that you can use that is it has a free educational version, and you know, it's a little complicated to get your head around at the beginning, but it does offer you the freedom to really take any animation and put it on any other character, really. All right, this particle effect, let's go find it. delete this emitter. Particle, debris, required uses that material, lifetime, color size, initial mesh rotation. Mesh material, interesting. There we go, that's where it came from. Why would it come down that far in the chain? That's very strange. Don't really even know what the point is. Maybe the material is changing over time or something? I mean, it does kind of sometimes look like there's two materials on top of each other, so it's possible they're like doing a material overlay. Which makes me go, hey, why don't I just like turn this off? Turn off, and then what does it look like? Now they're brown cubes, which I don't know if that's with a texture on it or what, but it kind of works for what we need here. There's lots of dirt pile falling stuff. And then we want to shrink it down, so I could do it in the level and just shrink the actual particle emitter, but to do it properly, you would change the size by life. Let's see here. So this is probably a lot easier to use in Niagara now, but I don't really know exactly how it's gonna compare. But it looks like we're going from right, so arrive tangent value 1. So this is like basically 0 on its lifetime, and this is 1 point, well, a little over 1, I guess, on its lifeline here. So it starts off as a scale of 0, 0, 0, and ends up as a scale of 3, 1, 1.4. These are your tangents, so you know how long, what your slow in and slow outs look like. So we're talking maybe, I mean, we could honestly just put this back to 1 and see what that looks like. Let's turn off the other particle emitter. We don't see both of them. Interesting that it actually looks a little bit weird. This is the graph showing life multiplier. Oh yeah, we do have some tangent handles that are a bit wacky. I'll organize it by vertical, horizontal. Hit, nope. Oh, fit, that's what we want. I was trying to hit F, but key doesn't work. What do we got? It's going up from, you know, a value of 0 to 0.5. It actually was kind of cool when it went a little bit too much and then came back down again. But it's not really what I want. Let's make these, so was it 3? So 2. Okay. 0.5 and, or sorry, 1.5. Boom! Alright, that kind of works as dirt looking thing. It actually starts quite high, which is fine. It would be the initial rotation rate, initial material, initial location. Start max, so it's sort of randomized, it looks like. Of 50, 25. Still looks really huge. Okay, so that kind of works. Let's start there. So let's go back to our cinematic and make sure that that's put in there. Go to sequencer. Whoops, let's open up our cinematic first. Go to the symmetroposing. And pretty sure that's the same particle that we're using. No, I dragged it in, didn't I? So what I could do is swap it out for the other one. X gun ricochet. Niagara component. Maybe I can't swap it out very easily. Alright, we're gonna bring in another VFX particle. Which one is it? Thought everything crashed for a minute there. VFX and ricochet. Let's bail on this one. Let's go for Alright, so for the life of me, I can't select this particle effects. There we go. EQ mesh. Really? That's what it's called? Wow. Alright. Let's rename this to... Okay, where's rename? There it is. P... Dirt... Flying. I can't confuse that. And from sequencer, I'm going to bring that in, drag it in. There's our P dirt flying. And we're going to, I guess, use that location. That's probably good. And we're going to get some tracks. Toggle track. Trigger. Something we did already earlier this Q&A. This stream. I want to see when the dirt goes flying, so maybe here, do a little trigger there. I think I may have to make a bigger setting change to my particle here. There's an option that will allow us to change this, but it's one of those options that take me forever to find. Wow, that was a crazy flash. Let's see. Talking about activating particle here. So I'm going to click on the black area and system update. Looking for repeating loops. I guess it maybe it's per emitter. I'm not gonna lie, I find this really tedious to find settings in the system. I hope that with the new Niagara system they have it all fixed so that it's a lot easier to find stuff. Because it's always like this. You're always like, where was that setting again? It's basically, there's an option that says looping, or yeah, emitter loops. Here it is. And when it's at 0, no. Or maybe 0 was the right answer, and it was -1 that I was thinking it was going to be. Alright, well that sucks. I was, maybe I was supposed to make up -1. Let's try that idea. Alright, so we get a little completed down at the bottom, which means it only plays once and then it starts over. Maybe that was what it was. So we'll see what happens here, and now when we play this, we should be able to get boom, and then it stops, boom, and it stops. Okay. That did work. I was successfully able to do it. Whoa, that's awesome. Waterfall of stones. And just for a recap here, I found that in the required of the emitter, so each emitter is going to have that set as well. Emitter loop under duration. I wish I could tell my future self this so that I would not forget it again, but I know I won't be able to. I'm never able to remember these things. It's like, oh yeah, it's just in this random setting in the many pages of settings that you have to set. Alright, so let's see what happens when I play this. Boom. Boom. That was actually a bit late. And then, you know, I could probably play with other elements. You can change the transform, add that into the thing. And I could say, well, let's move this to another location. We say, at this point, we want to do it here. Oops, wrong one. And then here we'll say, oh, the particle is now going to be somewhere else or something, so it doesn't look like it keeps happening at the same place. Otherwise people will be suspicious that it's just a blemish in the rock. And that didn't work, so I have to key it. So used to my auto keys. So key it, and if you really want it auto key, it's I think it's right here. Automatically adds key when track, and at least one key already. So you'll see it like go here and then go here. Kind of works. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because it's sort of boring. And there's probably lots of other things that you can do that's pretty cool. Like I know you have a particle parameter track, which would allow you to like mess with some of the settings of the particle if you expose those parameters through special, what are they called? One of these layer things. And we do cover a little bit of that in the course when we're talking about VFX stuff. Maybe not with sequencers specifically, but exposing special, it's not even a special track, it's like, for example, Size by Life, you would use a particle parameter vector instead of just a regular vector, and then by doing that you have the access to say this particle parameter is called such and such, and so that you can call such and such from other places, either blueprints or sequencer, and then you can like define a value for it or something. Pretty sure that's how it would work. I haven't really done it in sequencer recently, so I don't know if it's changed. Okay, so that's pretty good. We'll save it. Not totally amazed by my cinematic at the moment because it requires some more careful thought, I guess. But we'll do another capture of it and then see what we got. We only got 10 minutes left, so that's an awkwardly short amount of time. I had this thought that I was going to go back to animating some more, but it ended up taking longer than expected to get my particles to look right. Unless there's something else I can do with my particles. I don't know. Maybe there's things we can do. But it is kind of dry to do particle animation stuff because I'm not really an expert in it. We could try to make particles in Niagara for fun. Try to do the same sort of particle effect in Niagara. Boom! Look at all those rocks. There's actually particle emitting from more than one, which doesn't make a lot of sense. There must be, I guess I have to add like a delay or something. Let's just check this out for a sec. We have some VFX over here with the gun sample thing. Let's do a VFX Niagara emitter. They usually give you a choice. What kind of template do you want to use? We have one that looks like, oh, dynamic beam. Directional burst. Fountain. Hanging particles. Omnidirectional burst. Man, I should have just started here. Simple sprite burst. Hanging particulates. No, I don't want that one. Fountain. No. Pretty sure this is kind of how I started last time I did this. And then I was like, oh, I don't really know if that's what I wanted to do. Emits a burst of sprites in a specified direction. See, that sure does seem like the right idea. But this time we're going to use cubes. That's a cool looking particle. For what I'm trying to do here. This is gonna get really lame because I do not know what I'm doing. But I do want to find out if I can get particles, age, size, lifetime, mass. Right, rotation. I think the idea was instead of using that type of emitter, we have a mesh, static mesh emitter. Huh. Yeah. I feel like I'm gonna be really, really boring here. So we better change it up a little bit. Because I gotta do some research before I remember what I'm doing again. But it was kind of cool that we had a nice starting point for our emitters so that we could figure out a way to replicate what we were trying to get from what we currently have, I guess, with our emitters. And then maybe next time, whoops, I don't want to build. No, stop. What we'll do is think of either maybe we'll do motion builder as our plan, and we'll go back to a bit more animation stuff until I come up with a reason for what we're trying to do here. It's that weird sphere again. Why does that keep showing up every once in a while? Let's switch this up to selected viewport. And it would actually be really nice if we could finish this animation as well, I suppose. Because obviously we've got a cool scene happening here. We could definitely add some more pieces to allow it to feel a little more fluid. And then worry about maybe the motion capture stuff later. But it wouldn't be too big of a deal to do the motion capture, except for there's a whole process you have to do to set up your character in Motion Builder so that you can retarget it. Once you've done that, then retargeting is pretty easy from that point forward. So there'd be kind of a dry section in the beginning where I'm like getting joints to line up to the characterization, assuming that this joint system is not part of a template that already exists. And then yeah, so I'm definitely noticing how the gold trim is not oiling at all on the still images, so like when you're playing it in the game. That was another thing that we still have to sort out as to why we're getting that boiling. Maybe we should try and figure out what that render looks like as a fully rendered piece. The only way that I really know how to do that is to bring it into like a DaVinci Resolve post-processing thing, which I mean there is some interest in being able to put that together, I guess, more so than me looking at trying to set up some VFX potentially. But again, also with the DaVinci, I'm not familiar with that pipeline because that's a new software that I'm not used to using, but I definitely am trying to learn how to use because it's free software if you're just you know, not trying to make profit from it. And man, I cannot seem to stay on top of the updates for that project, for that thing. I'm really trying to get this over here. Let's see if we can import some images. I just want to see if this will work. Where are we here? There, and then character sets, content. No, saved video captures. Let's see how easy this is. Open those images. It's a movie sequence. Drag it down here. Switch it over to a regular mode that I'm familiar with. Change the zoom. Pow, pow, pow. So there you go. That's not too bad. Yeah, you can kind of see that boiling effect. And then let me just do a quick file, quick export to a regular H.264. Put that, I don't know, sure, we'll put it here. Won't take very long because it's a really short little animation. And now I just have to go to that folder. There we go. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit of boiling on the edges. Nothing too serious, but it would be kind of nice to know. It almost looks like it's anti-aliasing that needs to be dealt with. I can definitely see a lot of jarriness. Maybe my resolution was too low. Maybe there's something else. Maybe we can add a nice post-process anti-aliasing effect or something. The background seems all fine. It's just the shimmeriness of the gold is coming out as. And of course, the character is static and not moving, so there might be some elements there as well. But anyways, I will leave it there, and we will come back at it again next week and try to discuss. I think we're going to go back to more animation stuff, unless anyone has anything else they want to add to it. But at this point, you know, I think our VFX is now set up so that we have a good basis of where we're going with that, and then we're going to take that and into more of a, you know, a finished polisher effect for the animation side of it. And I'm gonna sit and think for what else we can do with getting our scene to look better, or maybe even think of a second scene that we can do, or I don't know. I used to have all these ideas, and right now I'm sitting here going, what else are we gonna do? We could do more gameplay stuff. That's probably what we should do. Switch out of cinematics and go into like more setting up character animation stuff, because that's definitely another area that I'm comfortable in, and we can discuss about blend spaces and all these other elements. So yeah, maybe we'll think of doing that for next week. And my lights just turned off for some reason, which is hilarious. So lights off, that means I have to go. That's how it usually goes. The bar is closing, time to leave. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know if you need, well, I'm doing my regular Q&A thing. Let me know if you have any ideas for next stream, and I'll see you guys again next week. Cheers.